Hello and welcome to the Cyber1 YouTube channel live stream. My name's Ray and today we're going to look at the NeoPixel rings. I've had a user on my Discord channel having some issue getting this working on my robot lab with his setup. So what we're going to do today is go over the connection of it physically first and then look at the programming side of it and getting it to work with my robot lab. Now I did do some playing around with this last night, so it's soldered up and ready, but things to note: the connections on the NeoPixel ring have the positive 5 volt, there's ground, the data in and the data out. Now we're only using 3 of those at the moment, but if you have another NeoPixel ring or another string of NeoPixels to use, you can carry the extra ground and power out across onto those and use the data out to feed the data in of the next string. It doesn't even have to be the same type. I have here some more NeoPixels. These are just singles, so you can hook them in as well. See if I can get this to focus. And it's not going to focus for me. It has got a number on it, I just can't read it for the life of me at the moment. But it is just another NeoPixel, very similar to what's being used, although this one looks like it may have the white LED in it, and they're driven slightly differently. So what I have here is an Arduino Nano on a carrier board. This is just an experimenter's board with all the pins broken out to like servo connections and provision for a external power supply. When using NeoPixels like these, we do need to use an external power supply. These things will draw a significant amount of power, and you can't run it off the USB. There's just not enough power in the USB to drive it all, and you'll get errors and faults. So with this one, we're going to use D8, or digital output 8, which is connected right here. Pretty straightforward. And I will connect my power supply. So I'm feeding 5.8 volts to the board. It goes through its own little regulator and powers the chip. We connect this to our Raspberry Pi in this case using USB. It should connect onto USB 0, but we'll see that shortly anyway. And from there, let's go and have a look at the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so I've just restarted this Raspberry Pi this morning because for some reason I decided to forget the Wi-Fi connection and the Wi-Fi password. So that's all been reconnected. I am using VNC to connect to it, mostly because it makes life easy for me. Now I have multiple versions of my robot lab installed on this Raspberry Pi to help with this connection. And in this case, we're going to use my robot lab 1.1.518. I'm going to choose to use that one because my Discord user has actually reported that's the version he's using, which it makes it easy if we're all using the same version. I have had it running on 523, 525, but I could not get the NeoPixels to run using the web or swing GUIs in 555. It's fundamentally broken swing in 555. So to get into that, let's open it up. Of course, that popped the window open right in the way. So CD MRL 1.1.518. Yeah, digital DO is a digital out. So NeoPixels are connected in a string. So we feed into digital input of the first one, then it feeds out of the digital out of the first one into the digital into the second one, and so forth. And that's the same for every NeoPixel in the ring. So if you have two of these rings, you can connect the DO of the last NeoPixel to the DI or digital input of the next NeoPixel ring. And you can do that for about 1,000 NeoPixels. All right, so if I do an ls in here, you can actually see what I've got installed here. I haven't actually got the Fred program installed in this one. Don't actually need it for this demonstration. So Java -jar to execute a jar file. My robot lab.jar. Now this will launch a web browser, in this case Chromium. Now in the Fred build, where I'm using NeoPixels, I have a 16 NeoPixel ring with a 7 NeoPixel ring in the middle. And they're just connected, so DO of the 16 ring is connected to DO of the 7 ring, and then I configure my system for 23 NeoPixels. Okay, so in runtime, we're going to first create our Arduino service, since we have an Arduino we need to use. And I'm just going to call it Nano, since that's what I'm going to be running. So we're going to change this to a Nano. Select from the available list of USB devices or serial devices, in this case TTY USB 0. The Raspberry Pi is running a Linux system, and then we can connect. Okay, so next trick is to set up the NeoPixel. Now this is where things I found break. In this case, I am using D8. I have got 16 pixels, and I'm using the Nano. And when I click on attach, it lists all 16 pixels, but I can't get it to work. The workaround I found at this time, and I know Grog will roll over on this one, he would turn in his grave because he doesn't like this one, but we will start the swing GUI. Okay, so there's our NeoPixels there. We're going to detach it. We're going to select this to RGBW because there is an error in the way it's linking. We will select the Nano and we'll select D8. It got that one right. Now we'll reattach. And if we set our first NeoPixel, and I'm only going to use 20 because it is very bright, and you'll see we've now got one. Actually, I'll just turn that light off. You can see we've now got one NeoPixel lit up. If I set the next one and use the green instead, that's not the next one, that's the third one. So let's set the second one to. So you can see we've got three different NeoPixels, well, three different pixels within the NeoPixel ring running. Now that that is actually up and running, we can actually go back to NeoPixels here, and we should be able to select the animation and run the animation. Should being the operative word. Let's try it down here. There's no provision to set the color on the web interface. And yeah, that runs a little bit on the bright side. Yeah, Kevin, when I tried in 555, it didn't work at all with the web GUI, and the swing GUI is now completely broken in 555, so that meant I couldn't work around it either. I have found in 552 the NeoPixels do work from code, and that'll be the next thing we need to look at. The code side hasn't been broken at all. I did have to refactor the Fred program to use it. The way the NeoPixel service is started is a little bit different to the way it used to be. In the past, you would attach past the pin number and also past the number of pixels you had. Starting with around 523, 525, that's been changed. You now have to set the number of pixels you have and the pin that you're using before you attach to your Arduino. Yes, I am actually running on 68, like MRL 68. It gives you a bad magic number if you don't. It's good to see you in here this morning as well, Kevin, so you can see some of what we've got going. I can actually switch to different versions. I think I'm actually running MRL COM 68 on the Arduino Nano, and that was based out of the latest My Robot Lab. What caught me by surprise is it actually worked on a previous version of My Robot Lab. I was expecting it to throw a fault there. Okay, so one of the things I did say is you can actually run this from code. And I'm actually going to cheat and pull up some code I've already written. Actually, I've already got all of this set up, so I can just call it. So we have a service called NeoPixel. Where did I use it? So I called it. Just bringing up. Yeah, that's what I thought. It definitely won't work if I had a MRL com mismatch, but I do seem to be seeing the system working. Uh, I do know that I upgraded to the latest with 555 to MRL com 68, and it just didn't work. Um, I suspect there are a couple of bugs involved, but without the swing GUI now working, it's a lot harder to diagnose through. Hello, Mr. Van T. Yeah, there've been a lot of changes in my robot lab just recently. I've had to make a significant number of changes in the program that I've been using, the Fred code, as a result. It's a bit disappointing to see the uh, swing GUI literally being broken when the web GUI is not fully operational yet. Swing is a very good fallback when web doesn't work. All right, so what I was trying to do was find where my code is, and I had a little bit of okay, so it's a little bit on the bright side to see what it's actually doing. But I am actually running successfully a rainbow color. Um, one of the suggestions I would make for the rainbow patterns, in fact some of the sequences, is the ability to set the brightness of the sequence. When using this with a camera, for example, the NeoPixels are very, very bright, blindingly so. Yeah, I'll give it another try. All right, so it's still starting. So what I'm going to do here is update the Arduino code. I'm just going to turn that over because it's so bright. If we go into the Raspberry Pi, oh sorry, the My Robot Lab, look for resources, then Arduino is hiding here somewhere, MRL com, and you'll find the MRL com INO. Open that one. We don't need that previous one now. So this is the latest My Robot Lab communication program for the Arduino Nano. Go to Tools, make sure you select the correct board. I'm using a Nano. I'm also using the old bootloader, so if you've got the latest Nano from Arduino themselves, you'll probably be using the new one. If you've bought a Chinese aftermarket some time ago, you'll be using the old one. Make sure you select the correct serial port that you've got it connected to. In my case, it is USB 0. And then we can compile it. So that's uploading now. And we're done. So now we can close that off. So this is My Robot Lab 1.1.555. It's one that I installed. Actually, this one was installed last night. It starts exactly the same way. It will start the web GUI. Okay, so runtime. If I dumped one of these days, I'll learn to type. I'll just call it Nano to save confusion. I am running a Nano. That's not a problem, Kevin. I like to make sure these things are working anyway because I'm using it in my own projects as well. So it's the NeoPixel I'm starting. Okay, so we are connecting to pin 8. We've got 16 NeoPixels. This setup is a bit of a problem for my arrangement in Fred because I have got 23 NeoPixels which isn't listed, and we can attach. So we'll just do a color wipe to start with. And that still hasn't changed. All right, so clear did work, sort of. But that to me says it's trying to run with the wrong type NeoPixel. It's using the type with the 4 LEDs, by the looks of it. Yeah, normally when I'm starting this, I am using code within the Fred program, so I can call with whatever number of NeoPixels I'm running. Let's see if we can try Iron Man. Yeah, very hard to see any change even at 10. All right, I'll try 20. Okay, so it is running at 20. Um, there is a delay in the video between what I'm doing live, working off your comments, and what comes out on YouTube. A bit darker. It's definitely not letting me choose the right NeoPixel ring type. Now I did verify the chip that's on the NeoPixel. It is a WS, what was it? A WS2812, which only has the 3 LEDs. For some reason, it's not driving those last few LEDs unless I select RGBW, which you can't do in Swing on this version of My Robot Lab anymore. Now, I'm not sure what equalizer is supposed to do. So I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 NeoPixels that are just running at full brightness. If I do a clear, you've got to stop the animation first. So now I've got four NeoPixels I can't control with this setup. Okay, so according to Kevin, the equalizer will link to a audio service, but he hasn't tested that one yet. Now this is Play Animation Rainbow Cycle. And what I'm seeing is a number of okay, so it's hard to see on the camera, but what it's doing is rolling around the colors. But because they're running full brightness, it's just flooding the camera. Makes it a little bit harder for you to see what's going on. Fred is over there. I have got his NeoPixel ring running. It's stationary at the moment. I don't think I've actually got my Robot Lab running still on Fred. I think I shut it down last night as I was playing with him. I can find out though if I look him up. I know Fred is up and running. Fred's currently running with version 1.1.552. Let me just see if I can bring that one up on screen. Add a window capture. Okay, so this is the My Robot Lab running on Fred's head. It's running at the same time. I am getting some errors come through from time to time with the Arduino. It's one that's coming and going. I'm not sure why. The Arduino does have a separate 5-volt power supply. Yeah, I remember Grog talking about all the work he was doing on the NeoPixel. There has been quite a lot of work done of recent in my robot lab. Uh, Most of it's been very good, and there has been improvements all around. I know what Grog and Kevin have been trying to achieve with a better interface and better connection between components to make it a little more reliable. And it has been getting better. Things like you can now use the NeoPixel on an Arduino with things like the ultrasonics and a passive infrared detector at the same time. Whereas if you go back to earlier versions such as Manticore and very early Nixie, you had to have the NeoPixel service running using a completely separate Arduino. So that's been one of the major benefits. Another one is Nixie now supports OpenCV on a Raspberry Pi, whereas Manticore, you didn't have that option at all. In fact, I'm not sure it worked on Linux at all, but it definitely works in the case of Fred. Um, yes, that is Swing GUI running in the background of Fred. I tend to use it mostly. Uh, I don't think I've updated to 555. Hello. Yeah, I don't think I've updated to 555 on Fred. I'm still running on 552, and I did do an update to Fred. Yeah. So the Jetson Nano would be an interesting one to try with. I just don't have one to play with. Uh, it does have a bit more grunt. I'm probably more inclined to go with a Intel NUC than the Jetson Nano. It's a little bit better supported, I think, than the Jetson Nano is. To be honest, I never tried NeoPixel on the old MRL com with Manticore. I never actually got that far with the building of it. In fact, Fred Mark 1 didn't have an Arduino installed in it at all. Um, I use a Nano here. It's a bit of a pain because it's an ARM processor. The Nano is actually a microcontroller, not an ARM processor. You're talking about the Jetson Nano as opposed to the Arduino Nano I'm running on screen. All right. I think that'll, yep. Yeah, you're talking about the Jetson Nano. All right. I think that'll do for this stream. I've covered off the basics of what I wanted to show. It is possible to use the NeoPixels quite well. Yeah, I haven't played with the NVIDIA boards yet, but it's something I might have to do in the near future. I am going to be looking for something with a little bit more grunt to process video. These NeoPixels are really bright. They are very, very bright. They're good for putting behind a opaque 3D print. Using these through code doesn't appear to have anywhere near the same issues as using through the various GUIs, graphical user interfaces. But there are some issues. For some reason, while these ones are listed as being only RGB, it does appear to be using the RGBW code, or it could be the RGBW code is not quite right. I am seeing some white in there, but yeah, the data sheet for those chips is telling me that it's only RGB. All right, I shall see you people later, and have fun with building your robots.